Can I have that Milky Way?
Oh, you can't have the Milky Way. That's my Milky Way.
Life's better the Milky Way, is it? Well, we've got the inside scoop on the famous candy bar, so let's unwrap the top 10 untold truths of Milky Way.
Don't touch that Milky Way, Jonah.
Milky Way is a ripoff, kind of.
Still a ripoff.
Ever hear of a Titan bar? How about a Meteor? Or an Island bar? Or maybe a For Fun? These bars are all ripoffs of the well-known brands Snickers, Mars, and Kit Kat. Ripoffs of popular brands are nothing new. However, it may surprise you to find out that Milky Way is actually a ripoff.
Fake, 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 fake.
Okay, not exactly a ripoff, more like inspired by, let's say. You see, back in the mid-1910s, there was a candy company called Pendergast Candy. The company was responsible for the creation of Minneapolis nougat, which was the main filling for their Fat Emma bar. Not too long after Fat Emma bars started appearing on store shelves, a Minneapolis candy maker named Franklin Mars introduced the Morrow bar, which would eventually be renamed the Mars bar to rival the Fat Emma. However, in 1923, Mars incorporated Pendergast's nougat recipe into the basic Morrow bar formula, and along with a few minor tweaks, he ended up creating a new candy bar, the Milky Way. You'll be forgiven if next time you bite into a Milky Way, you find yourself thinking of a certain large lady and some relaxed ethics for your candy bar's existence.
He's having an LBS episode. I'll get the Milky Way. The Milky Way.
The idea of Milky Way came from the inventor's son.
Nice work.
Good. Thanks, Dad.
Most great ideas come from some sort of initial burst of inspiration, but occasionally, inspiration can spring up from others, even loved ones. This was the case with the creation of the Milky Way. After Franklin Mars borrowed the building blocks of the Milky Way from the Fat Emma bar, Franklin Mars's estranged son, Forrest, gave his father the idea to put the finishing touches on the now famous Milky Way. In 1923, Forrest was arrested while working as a traveling salesperson. After posting bail for his son, Forrest gave his father what was needed to catapult his nougat-based bar into the stratosphere.
This could be a game changer.
Forrest suggested adding the taste of chocolate, malted milk, and milkshake into a candy bar. Franklin Mars liked the idea and combined the malt-flavored nougat with caramel and coated the whole package in chocolate.
And the rest was history.
The chocolate bar has gone through a lot of changes.
Again and again and again.
Many of our favorite chocolate bars and assorted candy have undergone several changes over the years. Not just in packaging, but even flavor and name changes were all common with various candy products throughout the years. The Milky Way is no different. The original bars were massive, weighing in at about 3 ounces in those early days, and were the size of 3 Hershey bars. Surprisingly, the bar that's famous for its caramel didn't have that much caramel. Speaking of the caramel layer was a very thin stripe compared to the modern-day Milky Way. This was due to the nougat being cheaper to produce, consisting of just eggs, sugar, and, well, air.
Yeah. Tastes good. Taste the air.
This continued until the mid-1960s, when the chocolate that covered the caramel and nougat was made by Hershey, Mars's chief rival. But when Forrest Mars took control of Mars Inc., he moved all chocolate coating production in-house. Change is essential to keeping up with the times, and Milky Way has managed to change with the times accordingly.
Change is good.
It seems a lot of return viewers are not subscribed to our channel. Well, what are you waiting for? Now's a good time to take a quick second and hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much.
The show goes on.
Milky Way uses malted milk with pride.
You think you could milk me?
Has anyone ever heard of something called malted milk? What exactly is malted milk? Well, essentially, malted milk is a mixture of malted barley, wheat flour, and evaporated whole milk powder. This powder was all the rage in the early 20th century and gave drinks such as milkshakes a distinct flavor that was very popular. As stated earlier, the idea of the Milky Way was meant to recreate the experience of a milkshake in a candy bar. And with the addition of malted milk, this only helped take the experience further.
Yummy.
Franklin Mars made sure to add more malted milk to the Milky Way's recipe, making sure to advertise that fact as often as he could. Mars also heavily marketed the use of malted milk in the Milky Way as a way to distinguish his candy apart from others as a healthier product due to the milk content. The high concentration of malted milk is also where the Milky in the Milky Way name comes from.
Bet you didn't know.
Milky Way versus the Federal Trade Commission.
What the hell is going on here? You're
bomb just got served.
How often have we witnessed our favorite brands become mired in controversy? Who will ever forget McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit?
Too hot. Burn my damn tongue.
Or the controversy that sprang up due in no small part to the Super Size Me documentary. The famous candy brands are by no means immune to the occasional public battle. Case in point, Milky Way versus the FTC. You see, back in the day, Milky Way ads had a tendency to claim that their candy bar was healthier than other candy bars due to the overabundance of milk in the bar. Unfortunately, Milky Way took this claim a little too far, implying in a large majority of ads that the candy was as nutritious as a glass of milk and a few eggs. The problem? Well, when your product is a candy bar and you claim it to be up there with the likes of milk and eggs, you're bound to run into a few critics. While the candy bar does contain those ingredients, obviously the health claims are false. So back in the 1970s, this prompted the Federal Trade Commission to order Mars to stop airing misleading ads for the milk content of its candy. This left many disappointed kids who kept asking their parents for a Milky Way instead of a glass of milk.
Ooh, better luck next time.
Milky Way Midnight.
Dark milk isn't chocolate milk.
Throughout the years, candy brands have often felt the need to repackage their products, sometimes to keep up with changing trends, and other times simply to try something new. Milky Way has been doing this almost since the beginning. Back in the mid-1920s, Mars introduced a version of Milky Way featuring dark chocolate-coated vanilla nougat and a touch of caramel, before deciding to drop the new version a few years later.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Continuing with the trend, the brand would debut a new version with two flavors in one. One half was chocolate nougat, while the other half was dark chocolate vanilla nougat. This version would be called Forever Yours. However, Forever Yours was discontinued in the late 70s, but the brand still had a loyal fan base who wanted a dark chocolate version of Milky Way. So, by the late 80s, Mars released Milky Way Dark, a dark chocolate version of the popular candy bar. This dark chocolate version would eventually be renamed Milky Way Midnight.
Make sure chocolate, gotta have chocolate, man.
The many international faces of Milky Way.
That's plenty, no?
Many of the famous candy brands have a presence around the world. However, you may not recognize the international versions of those familiar brands.
What the hell is this?
Milky Way is no exception, and the popular candy has several versions that you likely wouldn't recognize. These changes are not limited to just the name, but the formulation of the candy sometimes changes from nation to nation. For instance, the Milky Way, consisting of nougat and caramel covered in chocolate, is marketed as the Mars bar outside of the United States. This Mars version of Milky Way is also sweeter than the original American version. Even stranger, the UK's version of the Milky Way consists of chocolate-covered whipped nougat inside. There's no caramel in sight. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's because that's exactly the ingredients of the Three Musketeers candy bar over here in North America. Confusing? Yeah, but delicious tastes the same no matter the name. The Milky Way bar is not named after our galaxy.
Wrong-o.
When you first spotted the Milky Way candy bar sitting on the shelf of your local convenience store, you likely thought the candy was named after our galaxy. That makes sense. After all, in the past, the graphics on the package have showcased celestial bodies and an outer space motif. However, this is not the case. The famous chocolate bar is actually named after a popular malted milk drink from the early 1920s. Malted milk was well known for its delicious taste and apparent health qualities, and was a main ingredient in the malted milkshake. Never one to miss out on an opportunity, Milky Way capitalized on the drink's popularity and created ads claiming the candy bar had more malted milk content than a soda fountain double malted drink. Now that's marketing.
It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not even a scheme per se.
While the candy bar may not be named after the galaxy we call home, many would claim that the Milky Way experience is out of this world.
It's evolution!
The Buster Keaton Ad.
Purpose of a business is to make a profit.
Ads are a necessity for brands to get their products known to the masses. And what better way to spread awareness of your product than with a celebrity? Nowadays, we have names like the Kardashians to help sell products, but things weren't that different back in the day. Remember Buster Keaton? Likely not. However, the man was one of the most popular silent film stars of his generation. The star specialized in physical comedy and made theatergoers laugh hysterically back in the 1920s. Milky Way seemingly thought it was a hysterical idea to cast Buster in one of their ads from the early 60s. Portraying a billboard worker, an older Keaton is featured with a cartoon cow. The animated cow moves and gestures behind Keaton, stopping each time the star spins around. The bit goes on for about a minute, with the commercial ending as Buster shares his Milky Way with the cow. Yeah, commercials were weird back in the 60s.
Just a little bit. I can't stress the littleness of it enough.
The ad proclaims that the best candy on Earth comes from Mars. While that may very well be true, the oddest commercials on Earth undoubtedly also come from Mars. Sadly, Keaton would pass away 5 years after being featured in the ad. If you're curious and wish to see this oddball commercial for yourself, the full ad is available on YouTube. Here's a little bonus entry before we get to number 1. But if you haven't already done so, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It's subscribers like you that help us keep making videos like this one, so thanks! Now, if you thought the Milky Way only came in the form of a chocolate bar, well, we've got news for you. How does a Milky Way brownie sound?
Shut up and take my money!
In 2016, Hostess released brownies made with Milky Way pieces, a heavenly indulgence that combines the rich flavors of classic brownies with the lusciousness of the Milky Way candy bar. The Hostess brownies start with a moist and fudgy chocolate base, baked to perfection. But what sets them apart is the inclusion of Milky Way candy bars. Chunks of the beloved caramel and nougat-filled candy bars are mixed into the brownie batter, creating pockets of gooey, melty goodness throughout. The fudgy brownie provides a decadent, chocolatey taste, while the Milky Way pieces add a delightful caramel sweetness and a satisfying chewiness. It's a combination that will leave you craving for more. While these Hostess brownies may be hard to come by today, there are plenty of recipes available online to try at home. Now, let's take a look at our top spot. The European version of Milky Way floats in milk.
Time to float.
It's a wonderful thing to spot all the small and sometimes large changes and differences between products made in this part of the world and the ones made overseas.
Do you know at the Mumbai McDonald's you can't get a Big Mac? All you can get is the Chicken Maharaja Mac.
Over in Holland, Cool Ranch Doritos are called Cool American Doritos. And in the world of candy, France has renamed Sour Patch Kids, no joke, Very Bad Kids. While name changes are fun, it's also interesting what candies overseas cousins can do, like the European Milky Way's ability to float. Yes, due to the candy bar's lightness, the Milky Way actually floats in milk. To showcase the lightness of the candy bar, Mars ran a series of ads in the 90s over in Europe that demonstrated the Milky Way floating in milk. The bar's association with milk goes back to the early 80s. Mars ran a TV ad that linked the chocolate bar with milk as a prime ingredient. The ad claimed that each bar has the equivalent of a quarter cup of milk. The milk connection seems fitting, as milk is in the name, and the Mars company has no problem playing up that fact.
You're damn right.
Take a bite out of more great videos. Just tap or click, leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell.